Hey everyone, this is Mr. Franzen. Bishop Brossard High School's Seek and Find ministry is a ministry aimed to seek students where they are in their faith and help them find Jesus in their life. We do this by providing faith-based media content and learning opportunities to help students deepen their faith. Right now, we are in the middle of releasing episodes of our series recapping the TV show The Chosen. I recommend watching the season of The Chosen first and then come back and enjoy the recap episodes. Now, let's go ahead and get to the next episode. So now we'll move on to episode 6. Good ending. I'm glad we added that stuff. Okay, so episode 6 is called Unlawful. We have Simon and Matthew who are in the middle of their search for Mary, and they had to sleep in the city. And there's this fun moment where you see Matthew and Simon waking up in the hay, and Matthew's covered in some sort of animal poop. And Simon, this is that moment where you can just tell Matthew's different, and Simon sort of takes it as a moment to poke some fun at him and said, "Didn't you put straw down?" No, I didn't know I had to, because Matthew's used to living in a
big mansion.
Big mansion, exactly. But you can tell that they're both ready to take on this mission. They're going to find her. They have a common goal, which unites them. Albeit begrudgingly, they are united in this moment. When they focus on Jesus and their mission, they can find a way. So Mary, we get her part of the story in this process. She's gone to this bar and is getting drunk.
What's the name of the bar? Can't remember. Is it the Hammer? No, that's the old one she went to. It's called the Hammer.
But she knows the
She
people
knows
there.
it. She knows somebody who works there.
Yeah, because she tells the guy.
Wasn't it the same bar?
No, I think it was a different bar.
I thought it was the same bar. Because the bartender was
It's
think
not
it's
the
the
same.
one.
It's not the
No?
same bartender. No, but I do think it might be the same bar. Because, well, was she in Jerusalem? I think she was in Jerusalem when we first met.
First one was Capernaum, I thought.
Oh, I think you're right. I don't know. Regardless, she knows this place, and she tells the bouncer.
Just tell Thorn that I'm here.
Yeah, something about.
I'm here to win back my money.
Yes, you know how to pull the right strings. So she's gambling with these guys.
Yeah, and she's doing well.
She's doing well, but she's not herself. She's under the influence of alcohol and. She's gambling all this stuff away before Matthew and Simon eventually find her outside this bar, and she's just by herself in this alley, and they just happen to stumble upon her. Mary says that she's not going back because he already fixed her once, and she can't face him again. And, once again, how relatable Mary Magdalene is. She is saying something that a lot of us will say to not go to confession or to not go back to church. Mm-hmm. We might have other reasons, but that's one of the reasons that can really hold us back, is that we don't want to face our mistakes.
Right.
And that's where she is at this moment. And it's Matthew that is able to kind of use his own story to talk to her. He says, "I'm a bad person. My whole life I had no faith, but I'm learning so much more now because of you." Reintroducing the idea that she has a purpose.
Yeah.
And that she's doing good, despite having some flaws still. So they convince her to return to the group, and that's where she has this confession moment. She goes to see Jesus in what is essentially the sacrament of reconciliation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And she says, "I don't think I can live up to all of the stuff that we're talking about here." Jesus says she doesn't have to. He says, "I just want your heart. The rest will come in time. Did you really think you would never sin again?" And she just says, "I'm so sorry." And he tells her to look up. "I forgive you.
It's over."
That's the exact feeling I get when I go to confession, especially a good confession with something that you've been waiting to confess.
Yeah.
Like I try to, and it just started a few years ago where I started going to confession more regularly. And I don't quite get that same. I still feel great every time I leave, but that first time you go after you've been gone for so long is exactly how she describes it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And then he hugs her, and there's this cool emotional moment, of course, as always. So we also have received word at this point that John the Baptist has been taken into custody. And this sets Andrew off into a place where we have
He
not
gets
seen
darker.
Andrew. And
Hype
couple
man
episodes,
gets
he-
nuts,
Yeah, for a
man.
couple
He is
episodes.
no longer a hype man.
I
He
forgot
is.
about how this made him crazy.
Cool.
He's mad at everybody too. He's mad at Mary for causing a distraction, and he is
Yeah,
worried
he,
that
calls her out.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk amongst the apostles about how they don't understand anything that they're doing. Why is all this happening? It doesn't make sense. And of course, behind the scenes, the story of the Pharisees is building up where they're trying to build a case against Jesus. And I don't know how much we need to go into the specific stories of Shmuel and the other guy, but you just know that they're trying to get him with all the evidence.
They're filing claims just to get him on record so that they can be referenced later when he does things again to build the case future. They know that they don't have enough to get him now, but they're trying to pile things up to make his offense list stronger in the future.
That's right.
One of the parts of the episode that I really related to was when Mother Mary and Rama were out finding food.
Poisonous berries. What's poisonous, what's not.
Yeah. And Rama was just freaking out about Mary, which rightfully so. Her best friend is gone. She doesn't know where she's at. She doesn't know if she's dead or alive. And Rama is just going on and on about her concerns and how worried she is. And Rama's like, what good could possibly come from this? And Mary kind of like, well, you never, like, there could be good. Like, we don't know yet. Like, we don't know what's going on. She's trying to, like, calm her down and whatever. And Mary finally gets to the point where she's like, you can't fix anything by worrying about it.
Yeah.
I think it's Rama's the one who's questioning, why did Jesus send Matthew and Simon?
Yeah. And, yeah, it's just, I feel like recently I've been really trying to, like, think about the serenity prayer. Like, when I'm really worried about something, like, can I really control anything about, like, Rama, you could not do anything about the situation right now. Like, and just trying to figure out what can I give to God and what can I really control myself. And that just made me think of that.
I think you and I have talked about it before. You said the serenity prayer, which is good, but also the surrender
novena,
is great. And what's the main line in that surrender novena? It's Jesus,
I trust in you. Take care of everything.
Take care of everything.
Yeah.
Just saying that, it reminds me of Susie Clark's.
Susie Clark, Jesus come quickly.
I need you.
Yeah.
I think in the same discussion, Mary and Rama, Rama is questioning what.
You guys keep talking. I'll be right back.
It's weird that Christ is letting these things happen, and Mary says something like he's doing exactly what he was born to do. He was always a worker, but now he's working what he was put here to do. So if he says only send us two and us wait, that's what has to be done.
That's what we're going to do.
So I don't remember who it is, but James is talking, and somebody says to James about understanding, and he says, I actually don't understand most of this. Bits here and there, but for the most part, I have no idea. I'm just following. There was something about that's all, like Jesus keeps telling these people, all you have to do is follow and pay attention. Like you're saying, why weren't they out there watching him heal these people? That's all he wants them to do is just follow and pay attention. That's all you need to do right now.
Well, and I feel like that's kind of what our faith comes down to, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what's going on, but we know that God wants the best for us, and we trust. Like, first and foremost, we trust in him and what he's doing with our lives. And
it's easy to focus on what goes on around the world, and that any generation could do this. Like, I hear it from a lot of people, like, can you believe what's happening in our country? Can you believe what's happening in the world? Certainly, this is the most trying time ever. And I'm thinking, every generation could say this. Like, they were saying it during the global wars. They were saying it during, there's been violence and hatred forever. And I'm thinking, we have almost 1/7 or 1/8 of the world is Catholic right now. That's amazing. to start from what this little group was to now it's on every continent in the world. So things they could get worse objectively speaking, right? But as long as you have your faith, you can have your trust. And, we don't know the time or the place where we're going to, when Jesus is going to return in that fantastic way we hear about in the book of Revelations, but that's what we're preparing for. And he's trying to prepare the apostles for that because they don't exactly know what's going to happen. And even though Jesus is foreshadowing a lot of it,
Right.
we ignore the things that are going to be hard. We try to say, it's not really going to happen.
I also liked when Matthew and Simon are out looking for Mary, and they're arguing back and forth, whatever, and finally Matthew stands up for himself, and he's like, you know what? Like, what if you were cut off from Jesus because of something in your past? Wouldn't you want help getting back as soon as possible? Like, I was like, yeah, Matthew.
And Simon submits to that.
Yeah, he
Yeah, he
does.
does.
Yeah.
It's those little moments where they have, once again, that's why Jesus put those two on this mission together.
It's almost weird, but Matthew starts doing a little bit of math. When Simon wakes up, Matthew is looking at a map of the city, and he's trying to figure out what they've already covered. And he said, we'll cover more if we split up. We have to split up. And Peter is the big brother, even though he's a jerk about it.
Yeah.
I can't let you go because I don't want to have to come find your weird butt.
I
It's
have
going to
to
be thrown in
protect you.
jail. Somebody's going to be beating you up. I'm worried about you. You're going to be lost, hitting your head in a corner or something, that you need to stay with me. But when he finally submits and says, all right, let's split up, they
find her.
literally find Mary like a second later.
That's right.
That he trusts that Matthew is here for a reason, is when it's revealed, when they find what they came for.
There's also a little bit of, there's absolutely no evidence of this in Scripture, but there's a little, brotherly banter between them because he's, asking, Simon Peter is asking Matthew, how would you describe
How did you
Mary?
describe Mary?
And he's even got this little smirk on his face when Mary starts getting sick and he's holding her hair back. And it's just that brotherly banter of Matthew may have a little crush on Mary, but that's not it at all, really.
Yeah.
Because Matthew is this is the one person
This
who
is one person who's been nice.
right from the
Sweet
start.
guy, yeah.
Yes, he's amazing.
I also think there's a weird moment that I was just like, this makes no sense. Why is it in here? The whole point that Matthew is up first, and Simon gets up and he sees that Matthew has dung on him, on his clothes.
I referenced it earlier.
Did you not put hay down first? No, up to this point, Matthew has been walking around with a cloth with perfume in it because he can't stand the smell. So now we're to believe that Matthew did not smell this? This does not make any sense.
I think they just threw a little humor in there just for fun.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, dude. Now he does lose his outer cloak there.
He
So
does.
maybe that's his way of saying, I'm more like these people than I allowed myself to be.
That's right. So I don't think we've gotten to the end of this episode yet, where at the end they go to a synagogue in a small town. Jesus finds this man with a withered hand, and in the middle of everything, he decides to heal him on the Sabbath. The leaders of the synagogue are angry, of course. They, once again, don't focus on the fact that they just witnessed a miracle. They focused on the fact that Jesus is interrupting their service and healing on the Sabbath. And so, once again, Jesus stirs the waters, and they leave. Now, to this point, I think one of the conversations you have Thomas and Matthew talking about at the beginning.
Abby and I were just saying.
Oh, did you?
When you were
when I was in the
outside the room.
They were running out of food.
Yeah.
So Jesus, once again, Simon does it without even realizing, grabs some grain, starts eating it, and everybody's like, you're not supposed to do that. It's the Sabbath. And Jesus tells him to
Well,
go
the
ahead.
name of the episode, which you didn't reference either, is called Unlawful.
Yeah.
So they're breaking a law. But at the beginning, when we have our little flashback montage at the beginning, we actually see David.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about
years
that.
prior, who is also breaking the exact same law. He is, in a different way, same law but in a different form, where David is coming to a friend, someone who knows that he's hiding from Saul, someone who is helping David, and he comes in during Shabbat, and he needs bread for his men who are hiding, and on this hill, which is the hill that I just referenced. David hid on this hill. So they're hiding, and he says, we need the bread. And they're like, you can't have this bread. And he convinces the man that I have to have this bread. God would not want us to die. So he takes the bread, and there's something about this man says to David, I know there's big things to come with you. And he says the line, nothing can be bigger and more exciting than that giant, referencing Goliath, which I think David did some awesome stuff. But even he, and we know him as the giant slayer, which is crazy to think that he knew that was my defining moment.
That's right. I didn't even realize it until I went back and watched this, that they kept the same actor, David, in future episodes.
Yeah, the future episodes of David,
which is cool. And so at the end of this, Jesus quotes David before, these guys find him eating the grain, and all the guys eating the grain, and the leaders of the synagogue question him again. And Jesus quotes David and reveals himself as the Son of Man to them. Yeah. And so the leaders go back, and they don't know what to make of it all, and they decide that they're just going to report it and pray about it.
And eat something called the bread of the presence. That's what this is referenced. So the beginning, the bread that David takes is called the bread of the present. The bread of the present. And now, when they start to eat the wheat, that's the only bread that is present in their lives. They have to eat it. They need nourishment. And Jesus allows it. It's a new bread of presence.
That's cool.
That is cool.
All right.
Yeah, when he's about to heal the guy with the arm.
Yeah.
I love how the guy, before he tried to heal him, the Pharisee was like, it is not right to heal on the Sabbath. And you just see Jesus and does it anyways. Deep breath. Are these people still going to get caught up about this? Because you see the Pharisees, is it Shmuel? That is him and another dude.
Him and another dude continue.
You see it, you saw it in the last episode 5, ever since episode 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's are you, even the people that they're going to are this is not going to hold up. This is you guys are being ridiculous is almost what they're saying. Your own people
it's almost
are
a misdemeanor. These are misdemeanor offenses.
Yeah.
But those, trying to look at this from a little different perspective, I know for me there's times where I know I see things happen, yet I'll still talk myself out of doing something sometimes because that little doubt gets in, where these Pharisees are just consumed with doubt. They've been probably fighting false prophets.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So it's harder I think in some ways they haven't been able to let their guard down. Not all of them.
Yeah.
And we get heart of hearts sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may not be Jesus that we're not letting in, but maybe we're not letting that person who drives us nuts into our lives, and Jesus wants us to do that.
And it's weird. We always think of them as the bad people, but they were just doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they were doing it to a T. We all know people like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We all know teachers. We're teachers. We all know teachers who are going to write someone up or give someone a demerit or give someone detention faster than other teachers. And it's not that one teacher is worse than the other. It's just some people stick to the rules, some people don't. And Jesus came to establish new rules. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to let go of the old ones.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
613 of them.
People don't like to change.
And then after he heals the guy, the dude was like, "Get out!" And Jesus was like, "Gladly."
It's also weird that every now and then I feel like it's so well written, but every now and then there's this one little moment they missed an opportunity. If Matthew would have just right there said, when they said it's the Sabbath, the Shabbat, you can't. Are you performing a miracle or healing on this? If you would have just saw him saying, if we just wait 6, he's already figured it out once. 30 more minutes, bro. We could have waited 30 more minutes. If you waited 3 more hours, we would have been fine. What are we doing?
It is, but it goes to show you, because there are times where Jesus wants to stir the water, and there's times where he knows he shouldn't.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing for us, is to realize what to do. I know I calculate all of that in any of my conversations. I can't tell you how many times I have seen somebody post something on some social media. I am in the middle of typing coming up, and I delete it all and say, this is not going to convince a soul of anything.
Yeah.
It's just, even if what I'm saying is right, it's not going to help. This is not the avenue to communicate this.
Gotcha.
And I think that's a hard thing to do, but I think what we're called to do is just to do it, and Jesus will help us navigate through it all.
By the way, this little synagogue is in a place called the Wadi Quelt. I don't know if you pick up on that word, Wadi Quelt, which comes to play in the next episode big time. It's a real place where a lot of stuff went down with Jesus. Wadi Quelt.
I did not pick up on the name.
It's actually a valley between two mountain ranges where a lot of the stuff will happen.
I just knew they made it seem like it was in the middle of nowhere where people don't even know where it is.
It's in the middle of nowhere, and they well, we can get, when we get to the next one, they talk about something there.
Okay, well, let's jump into the next.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the BBHS Seek and Find podcast. If you like what you heard, please like and share with a friend. Be sure to subscribe to all of our social media. You can follow us on Instagram and YouTube at BBHS.SeekandFind. You can also follow us on Facebook at Bishop Russer High School Seek and Find Ministry. Once again, thanks for listening, and may God bless you today.